about to. Sharif will join us. I'm sure you can not do it. Say whatever you're comfortable saying. I know that we asked you like yesterday if you could do this. But yeah, just like maybe. I know it's too much. We like. No, it's different من ناحية إنه الناس فاهمين واعيين. Yeah. Not you like that's the hope, you know. And no, this isn't happening in vain. You know what I mean? And it would be sad. Like my fear is that all what I've done is for nothing. You know, بس صار الناس شوية شوية يعني يسقسوا. All right. Tuesday? Inshallah, yeah. Yeah. It's also free. I'm going to see if I can get other rooms. I'm going to see if I can get other rooms. Yeah, yeah. You should have definitely should. I might just take questions from the audience because it's already 7:50 after the two of you speak.
Okay.
So and then this is Najla Sharif.
Najla, اتفضلي كيف؟
I will open it up to the audience after you talk and after he talks. Okay? Both on? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for doing that. It was really important for us to have like a little bit of a discussion amongst you all. This film was released in 2017. As the short film segment explained, Yaser Murtaja, who is the director of the film, was killed on April 6, 2018, while covering the Great March of Return. And on October 23rd, 2023, Rushdie Sarraj, who you saw in the film talk about Yaser, who also co-directed this film and was Yaser's close friend and partner in Ain Media, he himself was killed very recently. I'm going to introduce myself and then I'll introduce my two friends here. My name is Fatin Jara'a. I'm with Al Auda New York Palestine Right to Return Coalition and the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation. As I said before, this screening is happening in other cities. It happens to be that it's in 2 cities in Ohio, but it's also been screened as part of this Sauda, New York and PAL Assembly or Palestinian Assembly for Liberation film series, and this is the first in New York. The first of the series in New York. We're going to continue to highlight films from Gaza, so please stay tuned. You can follow Al Auda New York at Al Auda NY, that's ALAWDA NY on Instagram to learn more. I want to introduce my friends. We'll start with Najla Khas. I've known Najla for a long time through community organizing, but also because Najla has done so much work in the community. She throws a lot of really important events among Palestinian and Arab women and Muslim women, and I've met her through that work. And this is Sharif Ibrahim, who is with Columbia Divest and Egyptian Diaspora Resists, who's also a filmmaker and activist. So we're going to give it to Najla first to say a few words, and then Sharif, and then we're going to open it up to questions.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure, an honor to be here. I'm overwhelmed with the outcome of support. I'm grateful to be here and to finally speak out what it feels to be from Gaza. I wrote something at the beginning of this genocide because many people reached out and asked, how are you doing? And I am grateful for that. So this speaks for our Palestinians out of Gaza that have families there but live outside of Gaza. I don't know how coherent or articulate this is going to be, but I'm going to give it a shot. How are you doing, they ask. I get this question a lot these days. I'm fortunate that I have so many people who care for my well-being that ask me this. And I appreciate how much support I'm feeling, but I honestly don't know how to answer. How can I even answer that without thinking that the same question I ask my family in Gaza every single day, but with a different meaning? I ask them, how are you doing? For them, it means, are you still alive? Are you hurt? Do you have a home? Do you have enough food? Is there water? Are your friends and neighbors still alive? Do you have something to eat or to sleep on? Are your kids having nightmares? Do you have all your medications? And what are the horrors you're witnessing like? I have aunts, uncles, cousins, and so many family members who I'm also terrified for, and some of whom don't have an alternate passport that may give them a glimmer of hope. We are a close family and loved, and as most families tend to be, slightly dysfunctional with a twisted sense of humor. Even if they live in every corner of the globe, I can't imagine my life without them. So because I can't answer all your inquiries, I am alive, I am not hurt, I have a safe home, I have food for myself and my children, I have clean and safe water, I haven't witnessed anyone get killed today, I have a comfortable mattress and a bed, my kids are safe from harm, and I have all the medication and health supplies I need, but I am not okay. How can I be? How can anyone be? I always thank them. I'm sorry. I always thank them, and Fenton always checks in, and I thank them for the genuine offers and gestures of their warmth and support. It means so much to me and my family, because believe it or not, it gives them hope. They're surprised that they're being asked about. So I'm here tonight to ask you to keep them all in your prayers, and I'm pretty sure you all do, because they do need it. We're almost day 90, and it hasn't ended. At this point, they're just scattered all over the place. Whoever was in the north is in the south. There is no home. They just live in tents. And it's a catastrophe. There's really nothing to say then, not even it's a genocide. It really is. They're just there waiting for their turn to come And that's just, every minute counts for them. Again, I appreciate you all being here. It really does mean a lot to them. I took a video before the movie started, and I shared it with them, and hoping that when they do have Wi-Fi, they're able to see it, and just puts a little smile on their faces that they are being asked about. You guys really mean a lot to them, mainly and more than me. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to run through some very important points of history and knowledge, and I share this with you to activate you and to further galvanize you to do with that knowledge everything that you can. And so to begin, Egypt is directly, and I say this as an Egyptian, complicit in what is going on. A lot of the conversation leaves Egypt out of its complicity. 9,000 lives could have been saved if they were allowed through the Rafah Crossing. That's number one. Number two, Egypt profits off of letting Gazans through the border at the tune of charging $7,500 at this point to about $10,000 per person to let them through. Now, the important thing to know is that the history of the border is not as simple as it looks. That border did not exist until 1948. Before 1948, Gazans lived on both sides of the border. That border split families apart. And when we take that into consideration, we understand that a border is an idea. It's something porous, and it's something that is malleable. And that what Zionists have as an ambition is to make that border porous and then to make it rigid. Whereas Palestinian Agency is letting people go and come. In 2008, Palestinians pushed through the crossing to get what they needed from the Sinai and returned to their homes. That context is often forgotten. It was not given to them, they took it. In 1948, Egypt had control of Gaza and had it until 1956. In that period of time, Egypt also blockaded Israeli ships or ships headed to Israel through the Suez Canal. Also important information given what Yemen is doing. And it must be said, given that this is the state of the situation where Egypt feels comfortable charging Palestinians to let them through the border, that it must be normalized for Gazans to fundraise for their family members if they want to get out of Gaza. If that's what they think agency for them is, we must support them through it. And if agency for them is to stay, we must support them in that case as well. Every family is its own family, and we must support every family with what it wants for itself. Now, names, important people to know. There's, of course, President Sisi of Egypt, who is a target that we must pressure here and all over the world. The work that we do with Egyptian Diaspora Resists is to pressure him here and at the consulate, at embassies, and to get the word out and to make sure people know that we must pressure them because they can succumb to pressure. The other aspect of it is there's a man named Ibrahim al-Arjani. I'll say it one more time, Ibrahim al-Arjani. Ibrahim al-Arjani is a massive Egyptian capitalist who runs private militias in the Sinai and facilitates the bombing of the Sinai with the Egyptian military and with the Israeli military as well. They're responsible for displacing thousands of people and destroying thousands of homes all across the Sinai. And the Sinai is one of the most militarized areas in the entire world at this point, in part because it is profitable. And so with that, now that you have this information, we can then begin the discussion because you have the context. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open it up to questions from the audience, and we do have a microphone that's floating. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. There's some questions here.
Hi. So the thing that I was wondering was, over here we see like how Rafah Crossing was like in the 2018 era, I think. So we also know like a lot of things have happened in Egypt in terms of like Arab Spring and all of that. So has the situation in Rafah like changed overall in a direction that's like is gonna inevitably end up like this, or was there like a difference between how it was pre-Arab Spring and what we saw today?
Yeah. You said 2018?
Where the film is.
Where the film. So what you saw here, it's always been. I was there 2003 with a 40-day-old baby. Nothing's changed. It's still the same. Everyone has a story. Prior to 2018 and prior to 2000, it's always been like that. I could definitely say it gets worse. As Sharif had mentioned, now it's just they're asking. It gets worse. It doesn't get any better, and it also depends on the situation. Prior to that, 2019, I paid $1,000 to get my mom out, a U.S. citizen, just to get her name on the border, and to be able to cross and make her flight. Now it's $7,000. So the only thing that's going to change is how much you're willing to pay and the dire of the urgency.
So I take it you were also asking about the Egyptian Revolution and what impact that had, right? And so of course, like I'm sure you know that like during the revolution, people basically pushed out the Israeli consulate, and you know they removed the flag and all those kinds of things. And when Morsi was president, there was no bombardment on Israel. There was a lot more mobility than ever had been under Mubarak or under Sisi. And I think it's because he was willing to recognize Hamas as an entity in Gaza that was the case. Since that has not been the case, but the Egyptian people very clearly are with the Palestinian people, but they do not know what the situation in Rafah actually looks like, and many people cannot begin to fathom the idea of poking at Egyptian nationalism because the state is in such a weak place, because $1 now on the black market is equivalent to 50 Egyptian pounds, and wages are not going up, and poverty is at the highest that it's ever been since the revolution. And so things are really bad, and many Egyptians believe there will be another revolution. We don't know when, but we're seeing in stadiums, people are chanting, like, you know, for Palestine en masse in the way that things were happening during the revolution. And so we can't say, we can't know, but we're seeing that sentiment is still there. But it has not moved these politicians, just like with here, our sentiment is very clear, but it has not moved politicians as of yet.
Hi. So a couple weeks ago, I posted about the protest that was happening at the Egyptian consulate to open up the borders. And so when I posted the video, a lot of Egyptians actually commented under the video saying that the borders are open and we shouldn't be pressuring the Egyptian government. We should actually be pushing the Israeli government. I didn't really know how to respond to that. Could you maybe answer that?
I think it ties back to this disbelief in Egyptian complicity. And I think that the fact that you posted that is incredibly important because Egyptians are the most ignorant about this, because many of them, like Wala herself, the sister of the protagonist in the film Nour, was talking to some Egyptian at an airport, and she mentioned how difficult it was to get us across Rafah, and he said, Rafah, is that in Libya? He didn't even know Rafah was in Egypt. And it's funny, but it's also, it showcases how ignorant Egyptians are. And there are 110 million Egyptians in Egypt, let alone Egyptians in diaspora. And so it's very important to do that kind of education because they haven't even conceived of what it's like visually. And the fact that you all saw it visually gives you an upper hand and a resource educationally to share that with them. And I think talking about the history of the border, talking about the modern context of the border, the profiteering behind the border, and sharing all of these things and giving them that knowledge and saying, what does your family think about this? Have you spoken to your family about this? Have you spoken to your community about this? Do you know that there are groups that are organizing around this? You should get in touch. The more precise you are with the knowledge that you share and the asks and demands that you make of Egyptians, the better, because they must be organized, and they're very disorganized in the city, and they're very disorganized all over the country and all over the world, and only just now is this kind of organizing happening, be it here or in Berlin or at The Hague, and it needs to increase, and it needs to increase in magnitude and frequency. And if you know Egyptians around you, please, put them in touch with us, because we want to build here, and it's very hard to work through that type of propaganda, because it is really something where Egyptians just cannot fathom that Egypt is so complicit to this degree that it's just something that doesn't even, I guess, enter their imagination. And so you doing that is very critical and very important, and you should do more of it. Thank you.
In the video, you could hear Nour saying, I got through the first one and then I was returned back after. So that's the Egyptian side. So there's two. So it's not just one step, it's two steps. So she was returned after she got through the first, she got on the bus. No, she was getting on the bus, and then she was returned. So that has to do with the Egyptian side. So it's not just one side, it's two. And like Sharif had mentioned, it's not many Egyptians are aware. When they ask me, how do you get to Gaza? I have to go to the Rafah. So they're not well educated on, there is such border and there is such place that Palestinians from Gaza has to cross to get to where they want to go to. So definitely educating them is a plus.
And I will also add that we have been pressuring the Israeli government, obviously, through us being here in the United States, asking for sanctions, divestment to stop the billions of dollars that go to the Israeli government. And at the same time, we still have to take all means in supporting the Palestinians in Gaza, which could look like, if the Rafah border was more attainable, was something that doesn't cost thousands of dollars for one individual to cross. As Najla said, 1,000 is actually, unfortunately, a good price. Nowadays, when you see the fundraisers for Gazan families, they're asking for $50,000 for 5 people, because it's costing almost $10,000 to get them across. That's really feels like the only means for them. And we want to also just normalize, like Sharif said, that if a family's choice to leave because of whatever reason, whether it's urgency and needing medical treatment, as you all know, it's really dire in Gaza, to the point where the emergency rooms in the hospitals, if they're still functional, I think it's down from it's down to maybe 3 barely functioning hospitals in all of the Strip. So the families, some of them, it's not that they want to leave and completely relocate out of Gaza, but they are in urgency to get out of being bombarded and to seek medical treatment, to seek housing, to seek food and shelter, etc. So that's also something to keep in mind when we talk to folks about why we are pressuring everybody who's complicit, not just the Egyptian government, but all governments who are complicit in this genocide. There's a question over here.
Thank you for your presentation, and I wish much support for your families, as well as, for that matter, one person I know who happens to live in Gaza. My question is this: Gaza's been described as an open-air prison. Can you explain exactly what that means? in terms of trade, in terms of working people being able to leave Gaza, go elsewhere for work, and what does that look like? What exactly does that mean, and specifically, what role does the Israeli government play in creating this condition?
I mean, open air prison, it's not even open air prison because you can't, your drones that you have to videotape an event that's going on or a graduation, there's certain height that they're able to fly up. So it's a prison, period. You're unable to leave when you want. You are given to eat what is available. If you have dreams, it's a mission to what's the word I'm looking for? Not to realize them, but if you have a dream, it's a mission to leave, to do anything, to even think about dreaming, to becoming whatever you want to become, a doctor or whatever it is. You're in a prison. I mean, my mom got stuck there and she didn't get stuck there for 3 months. She was there for 3 months, but once she realized a month in being in Gaza, she didn't register to leave in 2 months. So she got there on Monday. She was supposed to go and register on Tuesday so she could leave in 3 months. She didn't do that. So she spent a month and a half of her time with her siblings worrying about how she's going to leave. And it was hell for her. So the vacation she thought she was going to have turned into a nightmare. Again, open air or a prison itself, you're just in a big space of land and you're being told how to live on a daily basis. If you're a fisher, you can't, there's certain, distance you can go out in the sea. Electricity. Certain time frames in the day you get electricity. When I was there, when we received electricity, it was 2, 3 in the morning. You had women cooking, ironing, turning the motor on so you could get water. If you look in the news, majority of the homes have these huge barrels on their roof. Do you guys ever wonder what that was? What they do is they turn their motors on and that stores water for the time frame that there is no water. So I mean, there's no other way to explain it but the fact that you're human beings in a certain space and being told how to live on a daily basis or even how to think or how to dream or anything. You're unable to do anything. I mean, I fled the first Intifada. I came to the United States as an 8-year-old. I was given the opportunity. I didn't want to leave Gaza. My parents didn't want to leave Gaza, but what they wanted to do was to leave Gaza for opportunities. My dad was given an opportunity to come to America and to give life to his children. I, as a child, came to America and was given an opportunity because in that prison, I wasn't given the opportunity. I was going to school, but at every corner, there was a huge, there was a soldier with their, and I call it my boogeyman because my boogeyman is not a monster. My boogeyman is an IDF soldier with their big, huge green hats. And back in the day, there were huge antennas, and that's who I feared. So to me, it's a prison. You are unable to do anything. Walking to school, and they're at corners with their rifles laughing and like it was nothing. So there's really no other way to explain it, but you live in a prison. You're being told what to do, what to say, how to act. I mean, for God's sakes, there was a zanana one time over my aunt's house, and it got so close to us, I went like this. The whole house went bananas on me. And they're like, they're gonna come tonight. And fa'lan, they came that night because I went like this as a 7-year-old. I gave the peace sign, and later on that night, they came, smashed the door down, and they were looking for who gave the peace sign. We had to hide my 7-year-old, I was 7, my brother was 8. We had to hide him under mattresses, put the mattress on top of him because my brother was big and tall. It's a prison. I mean, how else can you explain it? It's in every aspect of a human being wants to live, there's always a story. They used to, you have your shoe off, correct? Flip your shoe, let me see the print on your shoe. Okay, so during our curfew, mind you, I'm 43, and I can tell you stories like I was there yesterday. During curfew time, if you left your house and they found prints of your shoes on the sand, they would come and they would knock on the door, show us your shoes. That's not a prison. That's worse than a prison. At least in the prison you're given, that's worse than the prison. Knocking our houses down, asking us, let me see your shoes. Someone was out of the house during curfew time. You left. So we had to walk barefoot. Ask me now to walk the whole city of New York barefoot, and I could do it for you. Because it was just a normal thing. And that's a prison. There's so many stories that you could probably say prison is probably better, but that's our prison. You can't do anything. You're limited to everything. You're limited to your dreams. You're limited to your dreams. And me as a child came here, I not fulfilled my dreams, but I was able to go to school. I was able to play soccer and not worry about bombs being thrown over our heads. I was able to fly kites. I was able to play in my parents' backyard. When we came to Jersey and we were hesitant, my dad's like, go, it's okay. And we're like, we're allowed? It's okay. 4th of July, it's hell for me. We have membership to Six Flags, and when I go to with my children, they know sunset before the fireworks and Six Flags sets, we have to go home. They know. It's not, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. My 19-year-old son is here. He could definitely vouch for that. We have to leave before the fireworks starts. Because to me, it brings back horror. And that's our prison. There's so many stories, and there's no other word to explain Gaza, but it's a prison.
I will also add, Najla described it really perfectly. And I think too, Najla, you were there you left during the first Intifada. And since then, it's gotten worse. The images that Najla shared are images that are still common in places like the West Bank, where there is an active military occupation. That's where my family's from. And now we are talking about a blockaded strip of 2 million people. It's overcrowded. That's a blockade that was imposed since 2008. And that blockade meant things like Najla said, you can't fish, you don't have access to the water. Gaza, we've seen pictures. I mean, if you've seen some of the images, I think that the co-directors wanted to share, like earlier on. It's beautiful, it's a coastline. We've even had colonizing Israeli soldiers say, it's so beautiful, we can't wait till this is ours again. But even though they have a sea, they have access to the sea, whereas like in the West Bank, we don't. They can't go past a certain amount of distance to use the sea. The Zanana that Najla was talking about is a drone that it flies really close and it's zzz. Imagine living like that day in and day out. So these are normal circumstances whenever people say there was a ceasefire before October 7th, for example. The ceasefire looked like what Najla is describing. Living in a blockaded territory where you can't access the sea, you can't fly kites, you can't play soccer, you are on a diet. Israeli officials will have said this, that they want to place people of Gaza on a diet. Certain things can't go in. People can't go out if they could. You've seen the story of Nour. And I was watching the story and thinking, this isn't just one person. Imagine how many people wanted to do things that Nour wanted to do, or maybe have operations, maybe do something that was very urgent, the many people that get turned away on normal circumstances, let alone what is happening these days. So just to drive that point, it's not normal. It was never normal. As Nour said, it's not another world out there. It is the world's. What we're living in is not the world. It's not normal. Question over here. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Sherry.
I just wanted to add to that question. I would also lean toward calling it a concentration camp. I think that is the most apt label for it. And to also stress the humanitarian aid entering Gaza now is at the tune of 50 trucks per day when it was 500 before October 7th. And so now where we need so many more trucks to enter, 1/10 is the amount that enters. And so just to keep that in mind is another aspect of the border.
There was a question back there and then here.
Hi, thank you so much for everything that you've shared and for hosting this for us to learn. I wanted to ask, you were talking about Egypt and the border. I've seen a few things about Netanyahu saying that Israel wanted to try and control the border of the Egyptian and Gaza border. Is that something that's possible for him to do? Yeah, that's it. That's my question.
But they do have some sort of control, whereas my 40-year-old daughter, when I was there, he knew who I was, the soldier. So they do their homework, they do their due diligence. He knew who I was. He asked me where my father was. I said to him, he's in America. What do you want from my father? Now, I was an 18-year-old at that given time, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting 2 visits because I went there twice. The first time I went there, he asked me where my father was. He's like, you left America, you left Gaza in 1988. Why are you here? Why are you back? I said, I got married and I'm here to visit my in-laws. So they do have some sort of, they're very well aware. I mean, they know what we eat. They're not gonna know who enters the borders. And the second time I went, they're like, you could leave, but this baby can't leave. That baby's not yours. What do you mean, she's my daughter? What are you talking about? So they do have some, not full, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to just talk rubbish, but they do have some sort of, and if they do, like you're saying, want to have control, it's not going to be for the benefits of the Palestinians. It's going to be the benefits for them. And I'm hoping that they don't have control.
Yeah, so to layer what Najla said, there's the aspect of, for example, for a humanitarian aid truck to get through the crossing, it has to first go to, I believe it's called Irbil, and it has to be searched there, and then it returns to Rafah, and then it crosses. What Israel wanted was total sovereignty over both sides of the border, yes, and it wanted to not be held responsible for any harm done to Egyptian soldiers. Egypt rejected this, and so that's, I guess, the Egyptian government's response at this point in time.
Thank you. I have a great fear that, like the majority of crises that Americans are exposed to, there will be some outrage, and then after some time, I sense that Americans tend to forget that anything ever happened. How can we prevent this from happening with the genocide that's happening in Gaza at the moment?
Well, I would say that we have a lot of work to do. I mean, just because the very direct and obvious genocide, if it stops, and we hope that it does stop, that doesn't mean that the, incremental genocide doesn't stop. The genocide is happening in all of Palestine. You know, we're seeing also a lot of people being killed in the West Bank, people being suppressed, all through Palestine. If you're Palestinian, you're suffering, period. So if things sort of calm down, like I said, or like we're saying, it doesn't go back to a normal that we have to accept for anyone, right? And there's a lot of work for us to continue to do here. I think that there is an awakening, and the people of Gaza are leading this awakening. It's them, really. It's them who are putting their bodies on the line, who are getting in front of their cameras and their phones, and with every chance that they get, they show us what is happening. They show us what little joys there are, and they also show us what great devastation there is. And once they stop showing us, because maybe they, like I said, the direct genocide has halted in some way, we can't forget that thousands of people were killed in such a short period of time, and not just this time, but many times over the past couple of years. And we can never go back to what was normal for them, because it's not a normal for anyone. And so we have a lot of work here to do, and I think that the people of Gaza are leading the liberation movement, not just for themselves, but for people across the world. People are waking up to not only the plight of the Palestinians, but the plight of the people in the Congo, the plight of the people in Sudan, the plight of the people in Yemen. And so just because the violence stops, it doesn't stop because we don't see it anymore. It continues, and it continues to impact the global south. And so we have to continue to do the work. What we are facing is something that is unimaginable, but with all of us doing our part, whatever that is, whether it's to screen films like this, or talk to our neighbors, or call the Congress people, or whatever, we all have work to do, and everyone needs to find what their role is in this liberation movement. There is a role for every single one of us, and everyone needs to find what their role is in the liberation movement.
Okay, so first, of course, educate yourself as much as you possibly can. Know everything there is to know. It's number one. Number two, we don't need to wait for larger organizations to lead us right now. You can get a group of 5 or 10 of your friends and do a direct action anywhere, anytime. You just need to know how to organize and do it in a way that's smart and effective, and where you all have a clear consensus as to what you're willing to do, right? So education and organizing, and also being willing 100% to support Palestinian resistance. Now, when I say that, I mean when somebody says condemn Hamas, say, no, I condemn the Zionist state. You don't let them play their games, right? And you hold to that with all of your will. And you ask yourself, what have I given to the Palestinian people? What have I done for them? What have I sacrificed? How much more can I give? Because they need us all now, right? And it's a matter of pushing yourself beyond what you think your capacity is. It's difficult, but we have to do it. And we're in a place now. There was this Palestinian elder, I think his name was Ahmed Yassin. He believed that Israel would end 80 years into its existence. And we're almost there, my friend. We're very fucking close, right? And each and every single one of you have a hand in that. You have to make that happen. Hope is the most powerful weapon we have. And action combined with hope is what makes that dream a reality. And it has to happen sooner than later, right? And when we say we will free Palestine, that chant is beautiful, right? But we have to ask ourselves what we are doing right now in the present to make that happen, right? And it's the depth of our engagement with everything, right? Literally, like 5 people who had never organized something before made a small group chat and took over the Hudson Yards Mall. On I think it was 2 days after Christmas, People are blocking bridges everywhere. People are talking about not paying their taxes, right? People are talking about disrupting this system in every which way that it functions. Yeah, you cut it where it is and you don't let it feed on us, because we are what make this state what it is. We give it its value, right? In every which way. You see what I'm saying?
I will quickly add that Al-Auda is part of the Shut It Down Coalition, which the People's Forum is part of, the Palestinian Youth Movement is part of, and many organizations that you might feel more aligned with are part of. And the Palestinian Youth Movement actually released some points beyond a ceasefire, because I know that that is the immediate ask, the most urgent ask is to call for a ceasefire, but there are also other things that we need to be continuing to call for, that we've been calling for before this, but we need to continue to call if a ceasefire is achieved. And the first thing is lifting the siege on Gaza now, not tomorrow or later, now. Free all Palestinian prisoners, ending the occupation, and ending US aid to the Israeli government. So there's a bunch of these here. I actually took them from the People's Forum, but I haven't distributed them yet, so I brought them back. So please take with you if you want to fly around and have these conversations wherever you're going back to, your neighborhoods, your workplaces, your schools, your organizations. There is a map, a roadmap for us to continue to do this work. So like we said, just because things may seem like they're going to stop, if they do, we don't stop. We continue the work. We owe it to the people of Gaza. We owe it to all oppressed people all over the world. We are complicit just by being on Turtle Island, paying taxes and voting or not voting, but whatever we are doing, we need to be doing way more to see a change in Palestine.
I mean, this is beautiful, I'm telling you. I have not told my story as much as I have been telling it for the past 2 months. Not many people knew they knew I was Palestinian, but not many knew that I was from Gaza. And I had a story. Not many knew that I lived through the Intifada. I was born in Hayy Shuja'iyya. My mom gave birth to me in Mustashfat al-Shifa. So what you saw in the movie are places my feet walked on. I recall the sand and the beach and the mina and the stores that we saw in the movie. Rafah itself brings back so much memories. When you feel like never feel like there's nothing that can be done. Always know. So once there is the ceasefire and the killing has stopped where everybody's seeing it, there's always killings that we may not see. There's always something happening. They say that October 7th initiated this. No. I was a rock thrower, I'm not gonna lie to you. And that was way before October, wallahi. I don't even know if I'm gonna say it. I used to be collecting rocks. Backyard in Gaza is called a hakura. We used to collect rocks and put them on the side because we needed to protect ourselves. I lost my grandmother in 2006 because she could not get to the hospital because it was curfew time. And every time my uncle went to leave our alleyway, there was a soldier there and he would look at him, and we ended up losing her because she couldn't get to the hospital because she didn't have her cholesterol medication. It's crazy. So many stories. For me, I'm just one person. I could sit here, we could have breakfast together if you want. We could sit here all night long telling you stories. So never forget. Never, ever forget. There is always that child that has a dream. The fighting and the killing may simmer down, but always know that there's a child in Gaza that has a dream. A child in Gaza that wants to leave, not like Noura said, to find a better place, because there is no better place than Gaza, but to find better opportunities because we want to grow.
Thank you. I think we'll have to end it there. It is a little past 8:30 and we have to clear out by 9 o'clock. But we wanted to thank the People's Forum for hosting us. Thank you to Ala for providing this film and giving an opportunity for us to see it here in New York and in Ohio and other cities. Thank you to Najla for sharing her story with us. Can we give it up for Najla, please? Thank you, Sharif, also for sharing your perspective. A very important one. And again, I'm Fatin. I'm with the Lauda New York Palestine Right to Return Coalition and PAL Assembly. Thank you. Palestinian Assembly for Liberation. Please follow us on social media at ALAWDANY and PAL Assembly. Yes, Peter? Oh, yes, yes. I meant to say that. Thank you for... I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, so... How can I share this? As you all know, South Africa is taking the Israeli government to court. And we do have a plan for supporting that and showing out outside of the United Nations. That will be on Tuesday and Thursday. Does anyone have off the top of their heads? Do you know, Peter or Tova?
I know the press conference is at 3:30 on Tuesday, but I don't know I think it's marching either before or after.
At
Yes.
12, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we were just like talking about this before, and I was very focused on this today. But please do stay tuned. Follow us to know that we are having a press conference. We're supporting that process. I know that while it's happening in The Hague, it will be really early, like on Thursday. I heard like from 4 to 6 a.m. or something like that. But we will be showing up on Tuesday and on Thursday. So stay tuned for the exact details.
Look at our social media.
Yeah.
Yes.
Out in New York, and people are welcome to sign up to our site for a regular mailing list and get.
Yes, we'll add you all, if that's okay. You're all registered and we have your emails, so we'll send you the information. Thank you once again for being here. Please get home safe and free Palestine!